Welcome back, everybody, to this episode of the Open Concept Podcast, where we are breaking down unnecessary walls and barriers that stand in the way of greatness. Straight out of Idaho, Boise, Idaho, Dane Miklaus, founder of Work Training Studios, multi-location fitness. I love, man, dude, we're going to have so much fun today. Multi-unit fitness studio owner, also founder of something else that's been really close to my heart lately, macro managed an AI consulting firm. I don't know if it's cool if we call you an AI consultant. Is that the right label, or how do I label you?
That's a great question. You know what? Every person that I introduce myself to, I feel like I adopt a new title. We do implementation. We're a consultancy. We're an agency. Like it. All good, man. I can help you. I can help you implement solutions. That's the only thing people need to know, right?
Perfect. That's all they need to know, because I've particularly been really jumping into a lot of AI, as I think a lot of businesses have been, trying to find the right solutions that are going to land in between the nuances and the framework of whatever it is that you do. Like in our industry, you know, it's trades, home service based businesses, construction, but trying to find that right, you know, tech stack that's gonna really not overburden your resources just because it's something that's cool, but find something that's really functional. And I've been loving what you've been doing for a lot of people in your community, which is where, you know, we first met, is in some of the AI implementation that you've been doing. And it's been awesome to get to know you and appreciate the time and effort that you've been putting forward so that people could get involved in AI and start to understand the power of it at a very basic level, because it's a pretty new thing for most people, and I think pretty overwhelming for a lot of people. So thank you very much for that. Appreciate you. But for all the listeners out there, why don't you give us a bit of a background story of Dane, man?
Oh man, where do you start? I grew up in Northern California, Sacramento, state capital, a little suburb. And in a lot of ways I had, I don't know, like, I feel like guys our age, like everybody kind of represents their background the same. Like I would call it a normal upbringing. You know, most people I know either had like divorced parents, but like we didn't call it a broken home, right? That's like a new thing, right? Like it's just like, yeah. But no, I had an interesting upbringing, I guess I would say, in that, you know, you had asked me sort of offline before we chatted, like, what are some of the formative things that have occurred? And there are those things where it's a colorful background, a dad that struggled to be the best version of himself when I was growing up, that definitely changed the trajectory of my life going forward. Other family members struggling with addiction, alcoholism, and really kind of setting the path for me in terms of what not to do. But at the same time, you know, as a kid in suburban America, kind of coming up, playing all the sports, doing all the things, right? Think, you know, insert 90s movie here. Like that was my, you know, high school. And, fast forward, I struggled with, insecurity a lot growing up, a lot. And, it took me well into my early 20s to realize that I needed to express myself in creative ways in order to feel like the best version of myself. And so what I loved about sports and athleticism, right, is that you get to compete, not necessarily against others, but with others, from the standpoint of like, you're going to become better in the process, no matter who is towed up against you, right? If you are doing the thing, if you're putting in the reps. So anyways, I decided to go into athletics per se. I thought it was going to be physical therapy, ended up being what's called exercise science, applied exercise science, my degree. And I got a job right out of college doing personal training. And where I come from, I mean, if you're a personal trainer, it's because you didn't go to college. Like it wasn't like a career, it wasn't like a thing in Northern California. But I was in Southern California where it was very much a thing, and ended up working at a gym that's it's a national chain, Equinox out of New York City, and they're an upscale boutique fitness gym, big box gym. Anyways, I ended up just sucking. I was terrible at first. And so I got introduced to some folks who at the just right place, right time, introduced me to a lot of the personal development books. And I've heard some of what you speak about and some of your guests. And it's funny that the alignment for me with where I was at that point in time and then being introduced to different material just kind of, it was perfect, right? Very serendipitous. And so I learned how to hustle. I learned how to be better for people. I learned how to adopt better service skills, which eventually became natural sales skills, I guess I would say. Not really, turning the pain screw and winding the pain gap necessarily, but actually serving people, right? Putting service first and having a heart for lifting up others. And so anyways, my journey started when I realized that fitness, exercise can create a level of personal achievement on the inside, like very few other things. I mean, entrepreneurism is probably right up there, but otherwise the physicality of exercise, doing hard stuff, it transforms you. It helps you achieve something from the inside and you become a different person in the process. And so I just wanted to continue giving that to people and I loved it. And so I eventually did really well. But it was a grind. It's a hustle game, doing personal training, trying to turn over as many sessions as you can. And eventually I got introduced to a friend of a friend who said, "Hey, I know these guys that are opening a fitness studio." And I was like, "What's a fitness studio?" He's like, "Oh, it's like group exercise." And I'm thinking like jazzercise and like step. And I'm like, I'm not about that game. I don't know. So anyways, but I went and it was more like a boot camp. And I got my ass kicked, man. Like this workout was so hard. And I went home to my girlfriend at the time and was like, "Oh my God, like I got to be a part of that." That was so much fun. It reminded me of like high school football practice. Yeah. So anyways, these guys opened this studio. I was the first trainer hired. We did really, really well. 18 months later, we're already looking to expand. They want me to be a manager at their second location. And I said, "You know what? I really want to try this business ownership thing. I've been reading all the books. I could do this. I know I'm qualified." And they're like, "Nah, like I don't think that you really have the pedigree that we're looking for, right? You don't know anything about business. You don't have capital to bring to the table, right?" It was a no. So anyways, I put in my 2 weeks. The day they told me that, I literally put in my 2 week notice that night. I said, "Okay, well, I just know that this is my future." And it took me about a year of planning. I always joke, I say that my degree is from Shark Tank and The Profit. That's where I got my MBA from. And put about a year in terms of planning and trying to make the numbers work. And then eventually got an opportunity to partner with a guy who's a financier, so to speak. And we opened our first work location in 2015, my late wife and I. And we had a business partner early on that ended up being a dissolved partnership about a year later. And that was a really big sort of growing moment. And then fast forward, because I've already been talking way too long. We're over 10 years in business. Yeah, we're over 10 years in business and we have 3 locations and now it's the right time for me to kind of take a back seat, step into more of an advisory role. My long-term partner of 7 years is going to step into that CEO role and I'm shifting over to macro manage, as you had talked about. So just a word on that. Over the last couple of years, I've been doing some side consulting and counseling for other fitness studio operators. And almost every single time we're fixing something with their software. Almost every time we're working on their business solutions. And so when AI really kind of became the rage, right, the last couple of years with ChatGPT, and then on into today where there's a tool for essentially everything. It kind of reminds me of like, when the iPhone first came out and there's an app for that, it's like, there's an AI for that. Like everything has an AI now, right? Like, oh, you want to order your hamburger? There's an AI for that. Like, oh my God, you need to clip your toenails? There's an AI for that. It's like, there's too much. But anyways, in a general business sense, there is a lot of need, as you had mentioned, to step up operations, to interact with the emerging technologies in a way to help you get a little bit done faster, better, right? Cheaper. And that's what AI can do. And so for me, I'm just stepping as opportunity full force because it's really exciting.
Heck yeah, man. I mean, it's such a wild journey, and with AI, I talk with a lot of guests about AI and specifically where that's going to impact their industry and how they feel that it is going to impact their industry as a whole. And some people have very, you know, I would say unfavorable opinions of AI and the negative effects that it's going to have. But people that really understand AI and how to use it, they can see ahead as to how this is actually going to really benefit them. But I can sure tell you, and like you'll probably back me up here, that anybody that isn't getting in on board with AI in their business right now is going to start to fall behind to their competitors and just as a landscape as a whole in business if they don't understand that. And I think one of the number one things that people are looking for on a resume these days is how we used to look at like how many words per minute can you type, right? How proficient are you with Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel? But now it's gonna be like, show me how proficient you are at prompting GPT, and show me how proficient you are in these AI products, because companies they're looking for that. But a lot of business owners, especially, I was having a conversation Saturday night at an event that I was at, and the guy's, he's about mid-60s, vice president of a really large construction company here, one of Canada's biggest construction companies, and he doesn't really have a clue. And he's also not at a point in his life where he wants to start implementing that himself, right? He's getting closer to thinking about retirement. He's done things the way that it's always been done. And he's actually made the comment that he's hoping to get out of the industry before he has to figure this stuff out. And so there's a really huge opportunity here for especially a lot of younger entrepreneurs coming into the business world to really have a leg up on a lot of the old dogs, right? A lot of the competition that is out there. And if you have any business and you're running it the way that you were running it 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I can guarantee you that there's going to be a couple of kids fresh out of high school. If they want to get into your line of business, they're going to hit the market better, faster, and with a lot more innovation than you have. And so you have to be able to keep an eye on that. You have to be able to adapt. And, I gave a talk to our leadership team here about, different steps of implementation into AI and how they can start getting used to it on a very, very basic level, and what this is going to look like in the future, 5 years now, 6 years from now, which is really just, my opinion and the opinions of others that I've gathered from the internet, because I really don't know. It's kind of crazy to think about what's out there now, but like what is going to be happening in 5-6 years from now. But understanding the basics of AI and how to use it, and that it is here to stay. It's not a fad. Like technology is going to get faster and faster, better and better, and you have to figure it out now. At least like these very basic programs, if you call them programs, but very basic, whether it's Claude or GPT, like get used to using those on a daily basis. Get used to balancing your thoughts against AI to start making decisions. Start tracking your data with different programs that it can help analyze it faster, because at some point that is what the world is going to come in and rely on. To some degree, but it's really wild to see some of these businesses that aren't yet implementing AI the way that it should be implemented, and they will continue to fall further and further behind. Real quick before we get back to the show, if you have heard anything on this podcast that has resonated with you, or if it's helped you in any way, appreciate more than anything in the world if you could go hit that subscribe button or leave us a review. It helps us tremendously. I want to go back to being able to continue to serve and do more and more and help out and get bigger and bigger guests on, better and better. The only way that I can do that is with your help. I'm so honored to be here. Let's get back to the show. Appreciate you. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah. No, I mean, so well said. I think, I mean, even in a very basic sense, right? And you had mentioned just even in a very simple day to day, just asking it questions, pinging things back and forth. And it's so funny to me, even now, right? I've got, like you mentioned, a couple different fitness studios. And at one of them specifically, I'm a little bit more involved in the ops. And so I manage different employees. And it's mind blowing to me that I am the old dog, right? Like, I started the company. I've been doing this for, I've been in fitness for 20 years. Like I'm on the, like not twilight of my career, but as we said, like I'm kind of like transitioning in a different direction for whatever different reasons. But I got kids, like kids, 19, 18, 20, that I know how to use the technology better than they do. And it blows my mind how a lot of kids coming out are getting that messaging around, oh, that's cheating, or that's the shortcut, or like do it the hard way. And it's like, okay, like I think it's I've got small children. I think it's important they learn how to do math, but if we're doing anything more complex than maybe double digit multiplication, like pick up the calculator. Like it's gonna be faster. And so it's not the shortcut. Like with all due respect, life doesn't pay you credit for doing things harder. It doesn't. And
Yeah.
so we're doing a lot of people a disservice, both young and old, I would argue, by not making it a little bit more of the daily conversation, just in terms of, again, just basic stuff, right? The way that we used to Google. And the irony for me is like people used to even do Google search crappy, right? Like they would ask questions that aren't qualified. And so like a list of 10 web pages will come up. Now Gemini is responding, and people like don't even realize that. Like the little paragraph, that's AI. Like that's Gemini. That's their version. That's Google's version of ChatGPT. So I think in very basic terms, the example, right? I have two trainers, and I asked them to do a project, and one of them essentially just said, like your vice president you were chatting with, like, oh, like I'm just not really a technology person. I'm not sure. And she kind of proceeded to show me a roadmap that she was going to do, very manual driven. And then the other one was like, well, I want to do this thing, and I want to put together this presentation, and I want to add in a spreadsheet, but like I'm not really good with Excel. And I said, enter in the function that you want into ChatGPT. And sure as hell, ChatGPT mapped out the entire spreadsheet formula, right? So that she could perform a calculation that she otherwise wouldn't have been able to. She puts it in her little Canva presentation, and she's all proud of herself, right? And so, I mean, if I'm a business owner, right? And anybody who's listening, whether you're a business owner or not, like if you're an employee, just honestly answer the question, like who of those two people should I be rewarding? Which of those two people should I be thinking in my head, I want to invest more of my dollars in to empower to become better over time? Obviously, it's going to be the person who's thinking forward, who's thinking about using the best tech or the best tools to do the best job possible. And so I think it's interesting how people will justify or rationalize inadequacy, mediocrity, so that they feel better about things. But at the end of the day, I think that we do a lot of people a disservice to allow them to think in those ways sometimes, because it's like, dude, like that's not how life works. Like life will slap you if that is how you're going about it. I hate to say it, but it just will. So anyways.
No, I think, like you said, the world doesn't really honor like the hard work, right? I shouldn't say that. It just doesn't honor it's not that it doesn't honor the hard work, but it doesn't necessarily honor the ideal way that people may think about work, right? It's like if I grind down, if I spend an hour and a half putting together this presentation versus 10 minutes, that is probably going to do as good or if not a better job. That's AI driven. But because I put in that extra time, it's going to be better. And I don't think that that's really the case. It is, it's not as efficient, but it is this, idealistic world that you can outwork AI, that it's going to be faster, that it's going, that you're going to be better, that you're going to see better results, when that's really just not the case. And I think the idea of it working in collaboration, like there's the argument for it that we're never going to, we're losing the ability to think for ourselves. Right. And there's going to, you see a lot of these memes where it's, guys going into a hardware store or liquor store or whatever, and they're communicating over Chat GPT, and they can't think for themselves. Right. So one guy is like, he's asking, hey, how's it going today? He's like, he asked me how it's going today. How do I respond? Oh, I'm doing well. Thank you. How are you? Oh, he
Those
asked
are
me,
my
how
favorite, though. I
he's doing
love
pretty
them.
good, right? And it just goes back and forth, and then you get lost and lost and lost, and it's like, and I get it. There's a part of that world where we can't get lost in our own ability to think critically, right? But you had made the comment earlier about, your father was sort of caught up in this way of, this idea of trying to become the best version of himself, but was also, maybe a little lost, and you learned a lot of, not what not to do from that situation. But that ability, and to identify just how things are going, and that to interrupt that pattern. I mean, that's stuff that AI isn't going to teach you. That's stuff that's going to be ingrained, or has to be taught by other sources, whether it's going to be books, whether it's going to be repetitions in the gym, whether it's going to be getting amongst communities of people and communicating. Like, AI is never going to take that, is never going to give you that ability, and it's never going to take its perspective and really start to shape that person that you're becoming. It is essentially a tool for now, anyways. Like, until Neuralink maybe becomes a bit more of a thing.
Right.
But until then, like the EQ, the understanding people, the ability to speak from your heart, the taste that you have, the casting of the vision, like something that's going to really start to resonate with your soul. Like, that is stuff that AI is not going to be able to do. It's going to be able to shape basic frameworks and help out with a lot of the, heavy lifting of maybe getting that message across. But people, I think, are really going to have to start to, I don't think people are going to get dumber. Maybe they will to some degree, I don't know. But I think that people are going to have to try to get smarter, and people are going to have to expand their way of thinking. No different than when cars were invented and they had to figure out your manufacturing, right? It's just this new way of this assembly line. It wasn't necessarily making people dumb. They just had to switch the way that they thought about things and the way that they visualized the landscape of work, visualize the landscape of their day to day, and know that, like, these things are here to stay. They're gonna, like, for better or for worse, take it or leave it. Like, the world was not a bad place before AI, and I don't think it's going to be a bad place after AI. It's going to be different in how we do things, for sure. And yes, some people are certainly going to lose their jobs, no problem. But what it is it will force people to step up a little bit and start asking themselves these questions. Okay, if my business or my position, my role in this world, it can suddenly be taken over by AI, is that an AI problem, or is that a person problem? And I think what it's causing is a lot of maybe some anxiety, maybe some questioning of purpose that people are going through right now, which I think is a good thing, because it's forcing them to look deeper and say, okay, how can I as a person continue to add value to the world, to my community, to whatever it is, my church, my family, my whatever, my gym. How can I start to add more value in something that AI isn't going to be able to do? And that's a bit of a deeper question, and it's going to take more and more time for more people to figure that out. But I think it's going to open up a whole just life of more introspection. People are going to become more connected, just, I think, with people in general, because they're going to start to crave that. Like, there's this weird blip where attention programs like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, whatever, is stealing a lot of attention, and that will always be the case. But I think with the introduction of AI, I think that people are going to start to recognize that there is a line that's going to be drawn. We're going to use AI for life and just doing a lot of the mundane stuff, but there's going to be this deeper drive to force people to try and connect with people. And maybe that's an idealistic view on the world that I have, but I think that there's a lot of good that's going to come along with it.
Yeah, I think it's a both and. So my wife and I have this, kind of funny little, yeah, both and is our thing. So we go to couples counseling, and our counselor, counselor is like caught in the middle. I'm like, I'm right, right, and she's like, I'm right, right, and of course his job is like not to agree with either one of us, right? Like if you've ever been to marital
Yeah,
counseling,
I have.
yeah,
Yeah, I've
you're
done it.
both
Yeah, for sure.
you're both validated and frustrated every time. But his whole thing is like he'll agree with whichever one of us is like trying to make a point. He goes, and right, so it's yes and so I agree with you. I think that you're going to have both, but I think that that's always been there, right? We take these sort of cataclysmic, catastrophizing points of view with, oh, all these terrible things are going to happen. It's like, well, look back, like literally every decade like has that moment, right? Like, oh my god, rap music is going to ruin the fiber of American culture. Like 30 years ago, 20 years before that, rock and roll music is going to ruin the fiber. Before that, like 20
The
years,
devil.
muscle cars and like burger stands were going to, and it's like, so depending on what's going on of the day, I mean, Sam Altman did say something, I think it was like last week. Sam Altman's the CEO of OpenAI, for anybody that doesn't know. And he said, in response to like, a lot of jobs are going to get lost, he's like, well, should those jobs have even existed in the first place? And a lot of people obviously have an issue with that. But like, if you take your subjective point of view out of it and you just go 1,000 foot, bird's eye view, I always like to do this with my coaching clients, nutrition clients, but it's like, why are you here? Like, honestly, like ask the existential question, why are you here? And then when it comes to solving for what you do in any given day, it's like air, water, food, shelter. That's it. That's all we need. Air, water, food, shelter. That's it. You want to add on the layer of we're human beings, so we're evolved and we are a social species and we desire connection and we belongingness and contribution and significance. Fantastic. That's the fifth thing, right? Maslow's hierarchy, Eric Erickson's. So point being, when you dilute down what actually matters in any given day, it is the one, surviving, and then two, the things that we kind of fill our day with. And for some people, because of our water distribution systems, our food distribution system, like we have created these economies on kind of bloated production processes in a lot of industries where we have kind of created jobs where it's just like it wasn't efficient to do it any other way. And so we created these roles for people, and because we have to pay them money, like there's some kind of right, like, so the way that the systems work is sort of based on entropy, not based on any kind of intelligent design. And so I want to say a couple of things to what you said, because I think there are some really interesting opportunities that are surfacing for us to make some big shifts, like you had mentioned. So as you were kind of talking at first, I was almost thinking like in your world, right? Like you're a tile cutter, right? Like, oh, cool, you operate the wet saw. There's going to be a robot that can laser cut every piece of tile to higher levels of precision and da-da-da. And it's like, oh my God, you're going to, how many wet saw jobs are you going to take away? I agree and disagree, because even though the market's going to be smaller, it's just like curated goods or artisanal goods. There is going to be a premium for people who want, no. You had the robot tile. I want hand laid tile, right? Like that's going to continue to be a thing. And so anything where stuff is mass produced or we're doing things at larger and larger scale that either AI and or robotics are helping proliferate, I think there's going to be this sort of tiered hierarchy where people are still going to be willing to pay actually more for human made goods. I think there's just kind of that natural component that we have. Again, it's that belongingness or that connection. The other side of that, and this is where it kind of goes like, well, how many of the other jobs can get created, is I think of the fact that, we do have flawed distribution systems. And so this is going the whole other direction. But like with my nutrition stuff, one of the biggest things that I try to educate people on is where your food actually comes from. And most people have no clue, let alone the fact that like we argue that like having 95 ingredients on the back of your, bar is like good or bad, like whatever. Argument for a different day. But like I was one time in a Whole Foods in Southern California, and I had the choice between organic and conventional. And the conventional, I want to say, was either from California or Mexico. So it wasn't coming very far, right? The organic was coming from the Netherlands. It's like 4,000 fucking miles this bell pepper had to, like, what part of that is organic or sustainable or not? Like, it's not. Like, are you kidding me? But that's how we're so at arm's length. And so my point in this, and now people are like, where the hell is this guy going? My point is, we have flawed infrastructural systems all over this country, and I'm sure in your country and most of Europe. Like, as AI gets better, the reason we don't fix some of those infrastructural systems, it becomes such a monumental task. It feels so undoable with traditional construction, traditional labor methods, traditional cost accounting, right? All the things. Well, when we're able to do the small stuff, like, oh, that saw cutter is going to have his job taken. It's like, no, he can actually go do way more important stuff, because we have water issues, and we have sewage issues, and we have trash issues, and we have food production issues, and we have energy issues. We can actually solve bigger issues to genuinely make life better when we start thinking about the things that we're doing, the jobs to be done on a daily basis. So I'm going to get off my
Wow,
pedestal now, but I just think it's an interesting observation.
I love what you said there about the flawed and bloated pieces of infrastructure and distribution methods that we have that were introduced, and I think that they were introduced and designed based on technology and demand that we had at that time. Right. We don't have the technology. We don't have AI at our fingertips right now where it's advanced far enough to look at some of those processes as now being obsolete or inefficient, because at that time we just didn't have that technology. And we're going through this, sonic digital tsunami right now where it's washing away a lot of the demand, and people are seeing, okay, this was a really inefficient way of doing things. It maybe served a purpose for a blip of time, whether that time was a year or 10 years or 20 years or 30 years, but it was really this infrastructure that we had put in place to get you that pepper on your table that was maybe not as efficient as it would be now. And that was, I think, the world just trying to serve the need. Like, I always have so much faith in the private market and in entrepreneurs that are trying to do things better and better and become more and more innovative. But at that time, whenever we've implemented all of these new jobs, different processes to get that pepper onto your table, or to serve a level of HR, or have that person that's building out and auditing all of your operating procedures in your business, or whatever that is, interviewing people, whatever it may be, relevant in your business, distributing protein and creatine and whatever, products that you might be processing in the gym. There was a need for that, and there probably wasn't a better solution. So the market decided, all right, this is something that we need based on the technology and the understanding of the world that we have right now. And just AI has really changed a lot of that landscape, and a lot of that inefficiency is becoming very clear now with new technology. And it will really be up to individuals, organizations, how they choose to adopt that into their life, based on, a lot of people are going to have, certain values or whatever that they're going to stand on that may not let AI into their world at a rate that other people will, which is fine too, because there's no like right way to certainly live life. But I think in business, for sure, there's always a demand. And one thing is always clear in business is that you are going to try and do better, offer better service, offer better product, offer a service that is going to have less friction than your competition. And that is going to become a better experience for your customer. And if there's a tool that is available, it is your job as a business owner to consistently step up that bar to provide a better service for your customers, especially when the people that are, they're so used to ordering food and it being at your door, online shopping, ordering something, have it, show up within 24 hours. Like, that is a really, really hard thing to beat. And they're just getting used to things being efficient. And if that's the way that the market is going, as a business owner, as just a human being, right? If you're thinking about starting anything or offering the world something, it needs to be of value that people are going to really understand and accept into the market as a new standard or an increased standard that we didn't have 10 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's really well said. It's really well said. I think the other side of that argument, again, that you had mentioned social, we can talk about cost. There's directions that these things head, because I do think that there's going to be people who opt out in great numbers. And again, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. And so I think maybe people felt maybe pushed in a direction for a certain time, and at some point something is going to come along, whether it's, retinal scanning for payments, or, Neuralink or something. People are like, dude, I don't want that. And that's okay. So they'll go and they'll build their separate parallel societies, right? Like here in the US, I, because of my just love and affinity for food and regenerative agriculture and all those things, right? My Instagram feed, I get a bunch of I get Amish stuff. I get Amish, ideas and tactics and stuff for my pantry, whatever. I'm like, God, man, that looks nice, right? So on one hand, I'm telling both sides of the fence. I'm over here let me slang you some AI, and then on the other hand, I'm like, dude, I want me some land. I want a compound, right? I want to go get me some vegetable gardens and cows and make my own butter. I don't know. I think both happen. And again, to the social piece, I would say again, there's the video game effect. There is the Hollywood effect. There's the Netflix effect. Consuming entertainment driven media has only become more and more and more of a part of our regular daily lives. And so I think it's funny that you do kind of have this dialogue, at least right now, right? When the time we're filming and recording this, of oh, there's all this AI slop flooding, social media, and it's crap and blah, blah, blah. And I'm over here I've never been a cat video guy. I'm the fact that there's years of cat videos, with all due respect, that was never my jam. I don't know that we're advancing and evolving as a species and a culture with a lot of the interest media that other people consume or have been consuming for years. So I don't think AI makes that any worse. But
the one thing that it is really going to force people to do is find a framework for discipline. And that is, with so many different programs and, jumping out at you, and with AI driven videos, and we can, in 10 years, it's happening right now, but it's going to be more and more common for AI influencers that are going to be owned by different corporations to build the character or the series of characters. And a lot of the stuff that you're going to start consuming is going to be AI driven avatars that are going to send out whatever message or on whatever narrative that corporation that owns those entities are trying to push. And that's going to become a bit of a scary thing. But at the same time, it's going to, if people that are really struggling and you're getting caught up in a lot of the endless scrolling at night, and if it's really impacting your way in a negative sense, then it's going to force you to dig deeper and become a person that you didn't have to become before, which is that finding that discipline, right? Putting those reps, asking bigger questions, starting to find a niche or an area where you can find that purpose and thrive and continue to survive. Like you said, though, there's air, water, food, and that's pretty well it. Shelter, right, is sort of the last one that you need to find those bare necessities. But that finding that sense of purpose and community is really something that people are going to have to dig deeper to do, and they will find themselves, I'm confident, in a much better place if they're finding themselves in a position where they want to do that work and they want to find that time.
Well, yeah, I want to jump in on that, because I guess the thing I would say is that's always been the case, right? You and I are both students, fans, Dan Martell acolytes, and Dan talks about this idea of buying back your time, right? So forget about AI, forget about it, right? Doesn't matter what it is. You hire somebody, buys back your time. You implement some kind of new system to buy back your time. No matter what you're doing as an individual, we all sort of get wrapped up in this idea of getting our time back. but then what? Like, what are you doing with it after that? So even if, forget about AI, you're a millionaire 30 years ago and life is pretty much set, right? Like you've earned enough to where you don't have to work a day again in your life. What we find is that people who do nothing, people who kind of just go live on the beach and sip the pina coladas, they're miserable. We are purpose driven organisms. So, yeah, there's the food, water, air, shelter, right? But there is that number five. There is the fact that we are wired to solve problems. We are wired to seek belonging and contribution. We're wired to want to contribute in a meaningful way to the people in our lives. Not everybody wants to be, famous and a world changer. That's fine. But everybody belongs to have unique connections, and everyone aspires to do something that they feel like matters in the time that they have here. And so I just look at this all as great. It can help me buy back more of my time to spend with my family or the other things I want to do. I do a lot of reading. I do writing. I volunteer. I have a desire to do a lot of great good in the world. And so if I can leverage something to allow me to do the other stuff, the soul filling stuff, because this thing has helped me carve out more time because it takes care of some of the money making stuff. I mean, again, like money's a tool, and it can be it's interesting how polarizing that topic can be, right? But at the end of the day, it's a tool, and it is only good for what you use it for. And people like to make it something much more emotional than it has to be. Money is a tool. And when it comes to all the AI stuff, again, we're talking about economies and we're talking about efficiencies, right? We're talking, these are all conceptual frameworks. A lot of it's not like real. It's just what we make it. It's just what we step into now that we're a part of this, modern society. And so at any point in time in history, the life that you have relative to the technology of your day, the social norms of the day, the political climate of the day, it is still up to you and will always be up to you then, now, and no matter what our technology future looks like into the future, it is always going to be what you make it.
And I think it's, we're fortunate in a position. I just want to recognize that, not everybody has the same opportunities that everybody has. Everybody's born into a certain country. They're going to have certain opportunities. They're going to be born into a certain set of parents that has a certain set of values, or maybe it's one parent, maybe it's two parents, maybe it's three parents, right? But people are they're going to be born and they're going to live through different environments and they're going to have different opportunities. So I'm very fortunate to be in a position where I'm able to sit here right now and have these conversations with the understanding that AI that's coming in is driving things in a direction that I'm excited about. But there are a lot of people out there that don't see that opportunity because they're struggling. They're working 2-3 jobs as a single parent. They are just struggling to make these, find these needs be met. And if their jobs, their ability to make minimum wage just to survive, to come in and buy food and put food on the table and get their kids hopefully through school and get them clothing, if they are at risk or their job is at risk of being lost to a company that is integrating just general technology, I'm not even using AI, but it's just because it's rapidly coming. And becoming more and more apparent in the landscape of business and especially in larger organizations, that they are at fear of seeing this and wondering what they are doing. They're like, you know what, I don't have time for purpose because I need to meet these immediate core needs. I need a paycheck coming in every week. I need a roof over my head. I need food on the table and water for clean drinking water for my kids to drink and me to survive. And they're wondering, okay, well, what does this world mean for me? What does the world mean for that person? And I think in a lot of ways, it can become a very scary looking landscape for people that are in different situations. So I do want to recognize that we are, fortunate that we're here in a, Western part of the world, like we're in a relatively safe neighborhood. We are not in a country where we have, mandated lights out at this time. This is how much food you can eat. This is where we're regulating the amount of money that you can spend, or how you can invest your money, and into whatever. We're in a free country where we can, for the most part, where we can invest money wherever we want to, into any stock market, and we have that flexibility to do that. But there's a lot of countries that don't, and their fear, I think, is what the people in power are going to do with this new technology that's potentially going to be putting them at risk. And I think that that's part of the flip side that a lot of people also don't see, but is probably on their mind.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of like second or third world countries, right? Folks that haven't benefited probably from the last, I don't know, 50, 60 years of technological proliferation, like most of the Western and English speaking countries have. I think you do make a really good point. I think the interesting thing, when I go back to thinking about the basic stuff, I actually have a point of view that's a little bit more, I think we need to return more to a natural relationship with our food. I think we need to have a much closer, tighter relationship with where those basic things are coming from. On the other side of that, there are technological solutions that are being applied to help solve some of those real world problems, right? In terms of scanning equipment that can better find underground water sources, right? Filtration systems that can be applied on much larger scales for much cheaper infrastructural cost. You have the idea of 3D printing houses, right? I'm sure you've seen in your world like this idea.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, like I saw. I'll let you finish your thought, but we'll come back to 3D printing houses.
Yeah, I was just gonna, like, I mean, I've heard it's going to be used in some cases for affordable housing, for dwelling units, for cities or townships that otherwise have a structural issue with regards to supply for inhabitants. And so again, I think that there are always going to be the other side arguments. But in general, as a species, we always tend to make it out making the best of whatever the situation is. And I have no delusion that there's going to be job loss. There's going to be death. There's going to be destruction. Like, I guess the thing is, like, is it AI's fault, or is it the way that we've allowed these systems to matriculate and to fester and to eventually devolve into what they have in a number of ways? Again, I mean, I can only speak for, like, no one dies of starvation in America anymore. That doesn't mean everybody can afford food. We just don't allow it, right? We have social systems set up in such a way that doesn't happen. So those basic core needs are their foregone conclusion. And this might sound insensitive. I'm going to give it the qualifier of, like, for better or worse, because I think there are a lot of government subsistence programs that essentially suspend people's suffering for a very long period of time. We're all going to die. And that might sound very macabre and that might sound very bleak, but, like, we're all going to die. We get very emotional about how it happens, and we get very caught up into this idea that some people, think about this for a second. Now we're going way off the reservation. We believe that we deserve long life now. I don't know a single person who doesn't think that they and everybody they love and everybody they know deserves to die at 88, 89, 94, cozy up in a bed, like, with, like, that we're the basic human needs in most Western societies are so automatic that we have completely taken the things that create life and subsist our life for granted, I think. And I don't know that that's a good thing. So, like, as much as we have the luxury, I think there's also an emptiness that comes with it. And not saying, like, the grass, I'm not going to pretend that, like, yes, that I have had definitely a much cushier existence than people. So I'm not gonna pretend that that's not the case. But what I'm saying is, life, again, in and of itself, if you went back, I call it 100 years. If you went back 100 years, most people lived, now 200 years, within the same range. So you've got the kings and queens and the lords and the overlords, and then you literally have everyone else. And the kings and queens of yesterday would trade places with you and me, average citizens, in a heartbeat.
100%.
Like the way that life is now for a large percentage of the population continues to get better, easier, more comfortable, whatever. And again, we can have the derivative arguments of whether that's good or not. So going all the way back, because I want to be sensitive to what you had said, because I agree with you. There is going to be people for whom there is a disadvantage to what is happening. I know that, and again, better or for worse, there are a lot of talks about universal basic income. There's a lot of talk about 4-day work weeks, 3-day work weeks. What happens when the jobs get taken away because the robots are doing it is, I don't know. Like, again, the trucker who loses his job also doesn't, die in a T-bone accident 5 years from now because, the roadways were slick and he had to pull a 12-hour because they needed their load in Illinois. Now a robot's driving the truck and he gets a basic, like, I don't know, right? Like it's very much one of those, we can't ever actually judge the difference between two different futures, but we like to pretend that we do. And so I think we moralize around or kind of create these judgmental aspects of looking at how things are because we're fantasizing about how they could be, and we don't know. So,
and I think that there's going back to food for a second, because and people living longer, right? Or people feel like they have this, this we'll call it a right to live longer, or this understanding that they are just going to live longer. The reality is, like, people are living longer these days because of technology that we implemented 50 years ago, 80 years ago, whether it's medication for things like Ebola, or finding early onset diabetes or cancer, right? Like, that will still happen, but it's because of the technology that has been integrated over the years that we've been able to extend the human life expectancy. But in some areas, in like trying to solve this, a food crisis, a lot of areas have really overcompensated, right? How do we make food faster, better, cheaper, and get that to people? And so when you're going to the grocery store and you're looking at a tomato that's $4, and you're going to McDonald's and you're getting a whole, burger, lunch, fries, and a giant, bottle of Coke for $7, you're like, I'm probably going to go that route because that seems like it's better value. And so we've really gone too far in something that, like, most people aren't going hungry. The majority of people in, Canada, the US, they're not going hungry anymore. In fact, it is quite the opposite, right? We have a new epidemic on, and it's massive obesity and diabetes. And so I'm hoping that with new technology and with AI, there's going to be a lot that's going to be able to be implemented to make good food, healthy food, faster, better, and get that into the hands of more and more people. And hopefully with things, I don't know, people are going to hopefully find a way to decide on the things that they value more. And hopefully they're going to start valuing things like, better lettuce and better meats coming from different sources, more than valuing spending money on on booze and stuff and going out and eating at restaurants and everything. Like, nothing against the restaurant industry, like, everybody wants to go out and have a good time, but I think if people start prioritizing things and cutting out a lot of excess that they have in their life and things that they don't need, and focusing back onto the core values, they're going to live a much healthier, richer, fulfilling, nutrient driven life, and a healthier mindset. And again, there's a lot of things that are going to have to be in place because people are living longer. Like, we put in RRSPs here in Canada, and you have your savings plan, your retirement savings plan that you guys have down in the States. And those were designed to retire at 60 or 55 years old, and then you were going to live another 10 years, and then that was going to be it, and that was going to be good enough. But now if you are living later in life, right, 88, 90, 100 years old, which is becoming more and more common, then we need to have things in place that are going to allow us to not just get to that point and then rely on government subsidies and our tax our healthcare system to death to keep us alive and healthy enough to continue living those years in life. If we are going to live those last years of our life as long as we possibly can, we need to be doing whatever we can, putting whatever we can into our body, into our minds, so that we're going to be able to live those lives as long and as healthy as possible.
Yeah. I mean, not to sound cliche or trite, but it's like, it's not about the number of years in your life, right? It's about the life in your years. And I think that there's a lot of wisdom in that. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. I said it before, life is what you make it. And so no matter what end of the economic spectrum you're on, what I was trying to get to before is there's an influencer, lack of a better term, he's a doctor that I like a lot, Paul Saladino, down here in the States. He's or he lives in Costa Rica now, but he's a kind of a controversial figure. He's all about, kind of eating animal first and very much a proliferator of the carnivore diet in the last few years. And he also does plants and different things, but like of different constitutions. So he's like, fruit's good, vegetables are bad, right? All these kind of crazy notions. But anyways, point being, he talks a lot about time that he spent in sub-Saharan Africa. And there are the Kitavans and there are the Maasai. And so he went out, and the Maasai are these tribal nomadic peoples who, unfortunately, their land is continually being encroached upon, but they are a true tribal peoples, basically living well before the advent of modern technology and still today, right? And so they're a protected peoples group, which is amazing, but they're essentially a time capsule of what pre-modern life looked like. And when you go and live with them, which he did for a few weeks, and you go and study, their disease rates are well less than every modern nation standard, right? Like you had mentioned. And on top of that, he just kind of gives the anecdote of the richness of their lives because their communities are so tight knit and because they have to value, because literally every day for them is life and death. Like, think about that. Like they are hunter gatherers in the modern age. They hunt for their food. And if they don't hunt and kill successfully, then they're actually eating the stuff that they can forage. And they talk about that, the living stuff, the animal meat, the organs, the honey from bees, milk from a goat that they keep along. Like, those are their favorite foods, and the plant forage and whatever, like that's kind of like if we have to, right? So it's really interesting. Anyways, I'm going on this tangent, but my point is, again, life will always be what you make it. And there are beautiful examples in poetry. There are beautiful examples in some of our favorite old cinema, in old literature of, let's think, 1850s, 1730s. Like, they didn't have air conditioning. They didn't have whatever, this struggle to survive. And yet they make the best of the times, right? There are countless examples of people in unfortunate circumstances who are still able to make the best of the circumstance. And I think that is, I mean, as I've listened to your podcast and your message, like, that is the unifying thread. It does not matter where on the quote unquote societal spectrum you are. Your life is only going to ever be as good as you can make it. And I think that as people look towards this AI-driven or tech-driven future, et cetera, like that's not going to stop. That's not going to change. And so I would almost argue it kind of becomes more important as the 1, 2, 3, 4, air, food, water, shelter, right? As that becomes easier and easier, and it is only going to continue to do so for a lot of people. I think the quest for meaning and finding purpose in your daily actions becomes all the more important.
I couldn't agree with you more. How would you recommend, if people are going through, what would you tell your customers if they are searching for some sort of purpose, if they aren't if they aren't necessarily connected with what it is that they're doing, with the life that they're living, the business that they're running, and they're starting to run low on steam. They're trying to, starting to lose faith in the world, in the circumstances that they're in, and they are starting to lose a bit of hope and starting to question it all. What advice would you give people to start finding that purpose and that fifth sense of community and engagement, and making sure that once they have all of their shelter, air, water, food needs met, that they can actually not just survive, but really thrive. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to make a huge amount of money in life, but that they are in fact going to live a fulfilling one.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm going to first caveat by saying that I'm a regular ass guy. I'm not. I'm not pretending to be anybody's guru here. But no, I really appreciate the question and the opportunity to speak to it. Because as you're asking it, a couple things came up. First off, I'm a huge Tony Robbins fan. Love Tony and his work. And he talks all the time about this idea that you can't hold two opposing beliefs at the same time, at least concurrently, right? You can have a shitty day and still be an optimistic person, right? You can feel both sides of the emotional equation, even in just one moment after the other. But you can't do them both simultaneously. I cannot be grateful for what I have and also bemoan my existence or feel bad or sad or insert what we would qualify as a negative emotion here. I can't do them both at the same time. And so just as a practice, going to gratitude as often as you can, I find has helped me out of a lot of difficult situations. Sometimes I go to the extreme of like, at least it's not this. And it's funny because my wife and I argue. She's like, I don't know if that's healthy. And I'm like, it works for me. Right. Like, so let me say it this way, right? I kind of alluded to it. I grew up in an abusive home. I saw a lot of brokenness. I saw violence. And that has continued to follow me my whole life, right? Trying to not be the same version of anger that I saw modeled and that I was probably scarred by, right? More than I want to admit. Grew up in a broken home, had literally addicts in every single aspect of my family, other than essentially my mom and myself. And there's argument that, sorry, mom, that she struggles with codependency. So I have experienced hardship. I have had moments of my life where I've contemplated suicide. I lost my first wife to suicide. I've had 70,000. I mean, depending how, at the time it was a lot of money. I had $70,000 stolen from me. I had a business partner who lied and stole business. Like I've had my shit. I've had shit. Like we all do. We all have shit. It's part of life. And so I'm not trying to sound like too cliche, but it is very much, again, what you make it. And if you're struggling with purpose, if somebody's listening to this and they're like, yeah, like what Brandon just said is me, I would go back to the Tony Robbins quote, because he talks about this idea that the only time you can't express gratitude is when you're focused on your lack, when you're focused on your scarcity. And so the point is, as overly simplistic as it is, we are simple creatures. We like to add on these layers of complexity and pretend we're more evolved than we are, but we are very simple. If it's impossible for me to feel all that negative stuff when I consciously go to feeling the things that I'm grateful for, when I make a habit and a pattern out of, well, shit, man, I woke up today. I took another breath, right? They haven't taken air from me yet. They haven't started charging for that yet, right? I've got all 4 limbs. Oh, this person only has 3 limbs. Okay, you got 3 limbs, right? I know people who don't have limbs that are grateful, that are motivational speakers. So it doesn't matter what your circumstance is. Can you find something to be grateful for? And go into the purpose piece, it is solve a problem. If you think that things are that bad for you, you can probably also find other people that you think they're bad for. Go solve their problems. Go serve. That becomes your purpose. Your struggle, a lot of times, is the thing that eventually becomes your strength. And so you have gone through something, you have a story that has enabled you specifically with a set of skills that might be perfectly aligned to solve somebody else's problem because of what you've gone through. And so I would just encourage people to start looking for more problems to solve outside of themselves. And The last thing I want to say, just because you've platformed me now, I got a
That's what I'm here to
microphone,
do.
is at the end of her life, this is documented. Mother Teresa was miserable. She was miserable. And a lot of people don't know this part of the story. But she was there in Calcutta, and she's seeing just the worst of conditions, and she's seeing just this disease and this pain and this suffering, women, children, invalids, right? For decades and decades. And she's trying to heal, and she's praying and she's praying. And there's some evidence that maybe she lost her faith towards the end, right? That this nun, that this saint lost her faith. And the reason is because the suffering never stopped. And she made so much of her life self-sacrificial. And so on one hand, I just said, be selfless, try to solve a problem, right? Think about others. But at the same time, I would also encourage people, this is one of my favorite quotes, a friend said this to me, says, you can't light yourself on fire to keep other people warm. So all of it is nuanced, all of it. Like we like binary answers. We like yes, no, black, white, because it's simpler. But the truth is that life is gray. And so again, back to the purpose argument, you need to find the thing that lights you up, but doesn't destroy you. You need to find fire that you can catch and hold on to, but that doesn't burn your fingers. So I would simply say again, try to get to gratitude, grateful as often as you can. It will get you out of the darkest of times. And when that's not enough, find problems to solve that aren't your problems. Find other people's problems to solve. And that to me is when you find purpose.
Hell yeah. Man, well, let me just start by saying how grateful I am that you're here to spend an hour with us and share your experience with our audience and with everyone here listening. And I think that's a great place to wrap up our conversation today. Brother, appreciate you. Appreciate your words very much. Appreciate your open heart and being willing to come and speak to everybody today. It's truly been an honor, man. Appreciate that very, very much.
Thanks for having me, man. Honored to be here. For anybody listening, time is an incredibly valuable resource, and so I appreciate yours. Listening to this conversation and letting us potentially have any kind of impact on you. We're grateful for it.
Where can people find you if they want to connect?
Just my name, at Dane Miklaus on all the socials, at DANE MIKLAUS. So Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all the places you'll find me.
We'll have it posted. Awesome. And for everybody else there that's still with us and listening, appreciate you. Appreciate your time that you're spending with us today as well. And until next time, stay blessed. Rock and roll. Have a great night.